Welcome, everyone. I'm Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at Netcom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's event, CEH v12 First Look by Netcom Learning Ethical Hacking Free Course. Presenting today's topic is Gilbert. Gilbert has been a systems engineer, a cybersecurity consultant, IT trainer, and project coordinator for over 15 years. He's worked with a lot of organizations from defense, entertainment, nonprofit, and financial institutions, as well as project managing systems development and deployment. He's an information security subject matter expert with experience as a technical instructor and cybersecurity consultant. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored to your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you'll get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. Netcom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We do have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. And today's presentation is from the security practice area. Netcom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio of courses for the topic being covered today. Our upcoming classes include various trainings on the given courses. You can also access a variety of marketing assets, such as the free training and blogs, by clicking on the available event handout. These offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at netcomlearning.com. In this session, we will learn about the core skills of managing, designing, safeguarding, and implementing cybersecurity technology systems, and many more. And now I would like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to view in full screen by clicking on the full screen button on the right side of the GoToWebinar viewer. Simply hit the escape key to exit the full screen. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. And to get the best out of today's events, we've included the slides, courses we talk about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. You may refer to them at any time to get a better understanding of today's topic. And we do realize that some of you may have to leave early, and want to let you know that as you do leave the session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to take a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience and improve our future sessions for you. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. And now I'd like to pass this over to our trainer to present today's topic. Hi, Gilbert. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I hope I'm audible and you can see my screen.
Yes, you are audible and we can see your screen. Everything looks great.
Well, thank you so much and welcome to everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm so excited that you have joined us for the Certified Ethical Hacking First Look. I'm sure a lot of you are excited to be exploring ethical hacking. Right? This is one of the most popular certifications out there in security. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some of the introductory concepts to certified ethical hacking. We'll also discuss some exam requirements, exam formats, and any other questions at the end of our presentation. And because this is going to be a long presentation, we are going to take a 5-minute break in approximately 40 to 45 minutes. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Gilbert, and I'm a certified EC Council instructor. And as Netcom, we present EC Council certifications. And for today, we're going to give you an introduction to certified ethical hacking. So our format and agenda is as follows. I'll introduce ethical hacking. I'll also talk about footprinting, reconnaissance, and social engineering. We'll also highlight some type of attacks to look out for and a brief introduction to cloud computing. Then we'll close off with some Q&A. Now, with certified ethical hacking, it has 20 modules that we cover in 5 days. So as you can imagine, it's a lot of content, but also a lot of fun. When you sign up for this class, we not only go through the theoretical concepts with the 20 chapters, but we also go through the practical lab work, right? So when you sign up, you will have a lab platform for at least 6 months to a year to practice all these concepts. But we don't wait for you to practice on your own. As you attend the class, after each module, I demonstrate lab activities and also give you a moment to practice on your own, and then we debrief. So when you sign up for this class, it's not only theoretical, but it is also practical. So let me introduce certified ethical hacking with module 1. Right, so part of the key thing that you need to be able to define is the why. Why ethical hacking? Right, so there are 3 primary objectives that you and I need to meet: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's the whole goal of security, if you think about it. Confidentiality is doing all you can to ensure that there is no unauthorized access. Integrity, on the other hand, is concerned with ensuring that there is no unauthorized modification. And then availability is primarily responsible for ensuring that systems are always up and running as and when needed. So ways of providing confidentiality could be things like you have authentication or passwords, or you provide encryption so that someone who is not authorized to view that information will not be able to see it if they're not able to decrypt it. Integrity, on the other hand, we are implementing and utilizing things such as hashing. Hashing is running an algorithm against a file and generating what we call a checksum, which can then be used to prove or disprove if a file has been modified or not. And availability, this is implementing solutions such as failover, clustering, redundancy, RAID, etc. So the whole goal of a certified ethical hacker is to meet these 3 high-level objectives: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We also have other elements of information security which we cover in detail when you sign up for the class. But one of the questions to answer here is, why do we have certified ethical hackers? Well, you are trained to be a hacker so that you know how a hacker attacks a network, so that you can utilize those skills and competencies to defend and protect your network and infrastructure. Right? So we call that an attack. And typically for an attack to be successful, there must be a motive or rationale or a reason why they're attacking you. Right? We'll go into some of those motives shortly. Right? And they must have a method It must be also exploiting a vulnerability or a weakness. So we call that the triad of an attack. So as a CEH certified ethical hacker, you want to ensure that your network disables all or any of these three, right? So remove any vulnerabilities, counter any methods, and discourage or disincentivize any motives to perpetrate an attack. So what are some of the classifications of an attack? Right, we have what you call a passive attack and an active attack. These are opposites. A passive attack is any attack that is non-interactive. So for example, I may be sniffing or gathering information about your employees on social media, such as LinkedIn, right? Or maybe browsing your website, going through your press release, or even your job posts. That can indicate to an adversary what type of technologies you use. So gathering that information and attacking you that way would be what we call a passive attack, non-interactive. An active attack is the opposite. It is an interactive attack. So the target is actually engaged with the adversary. So the adversary might be, running a man-in-the-middle attack or password cracking or sending SQL or any other injection attacks. So they are interacting with the target directly. So all attacks, by and large, fall into those two classes, passive and active. Other types of attacks include things such as close-in attacks, which require someone to be physically close to the target. For example, if I'm doing dumpster diving, which is going through your trash to find any sensitive information, it requires me to be physically present and close to the target. So close-in attacks requires physical proximity. Right. Insider attacks are another popular attack. This is an attack where an adversary is actually emanating from the inside. So this may be a compromised insider or a negligent insider. So this is someone who is working for the organization. Right. We also have another type of attack that is increasing in popularity called a distribution attack. This is when the attack, or for example, malware, comes preloaded on the equipment that you are purchasing. So if you purchase hardware from another nation state and it comes with malware embedded in the processor or on the chipset, that's a close-in attack. So it's an embedded malware or payload that comes with the hardware or software that you purchase. So all those are forms of classification of attacks. Now, all these attacks are known as what we call information warfare. Information warfare can be defensive or it can be offensive. Defensive warfare is essentially defending your network. Right? Some may refer to that as a blue team. Offensive warfare is when you are attacking the adversary. And of course, you need to be licensed to perform and do all that. It is also known as a red team activity. All in all, we call that information warfare. And as we continue, if you have any questions, feel free to put it on the chat box, and I'll be happy to respond to them at the end of the session. Now, let's also talk about hacking methodologies. As a certified ethical hacker, there are key steps that you are taught that we walk through in detail, right? And all these will be separate chapters, by the way, right? So we go in detail to each of these so that you learn how to perform that hack activity and also how to defend from that hack activity. So the high-level steps of ethical hacking, the first thing is footprinting. Footprinting is essentially gathering information about the target. Some may refer to it as reconnaissance. Once you gather information about the target, you then go through scanning. Scanning is running tools such as Nmap, Wireshark, and we do all these in practical terms during our class. And when you're scanning, you're primarily looking for three things: the IPs that are live on the network, the ports and services that are open on those particular devices, and the operating systems in use. That's scanning. Once you are done with scanning, as an ethical hacker, you then enumerate. Enumeration is essentially drilling down into those output that you found out through scanning. So if I scanned and found an IP and a port that is open, I then try to see if I can get through that port on that particular IP. We call that enumeration. It is advanced scanning. Once I perform scanning, I also look for weaknesses, which we call vulnerability analysis. If I then find weaknesses as a certified ethical hacker, I then exploit those weaknesses, which we call system hacking. So as an ethical hacker, you want to focus your hacking activities to areas where the target is most weak. In other words, to the vulnerable areas that you found out through vulnerability scanning. So with hacking, you're trying to gain access. Once you gain access, you escalate your privileges. In other words, if you got in as a guest user, you want to add privileges and become a standard user, or from a standard user to an administrator, from an administrator maybe to a root user. So you're escalating your privileges and permissions. Then you want to maintain access, and once the objectives are fulfilled, you then want to clear logs so that no one can track or trace you. So if you're looking at this slide, this is approximately 5 or 6 chapters that are covered in detail. But we'll do a high-level introduction to all of them. All right. Part of what we teach and train through this class is the methodologies to hacking, because it's important for you as an ethical hacker to know how hackers think and process, right? So we cover things such as hacking methodologies, right? Here we have what we call the cyber kill chain. This was developed by Lockheed Martin through their numerous experience in national security. So the high-level steps, according to the cyber kill chain, is that every adversary, first of all, wants to perform a reconnaissance, gather information about the target, then they weaponize that information. Typically, that weapon is delivered via a popular conduit such as email. So you receive an email attachment which says, hey, you have an invoice, or click this link to update your banking details, etc. If the victim falls for the bait, then their system is exploited and is now under the command and control of the adversary. And then they fulfill their objectives. So knowing these high-level logical steps that an adversary goes through helps you as an ethical hacker to then, of course, defend and protect your network. So through this class, we cover the different tools, techniques, right? And we actually demonstrate them in a live environment. So you actually have a lab environment that we work through together, and you have access to it for 6 months or up to a year, so that you have ample time to practice all the tools and the techniques. Another framework is the MITRE framework. Right? The MITRE framework is a framework that one can use as they gather information about what to actually do when they perform penetration testing. Right, so we call that the MITRE framework. Right, and for your benefit, I'll share the link on the chat as well as share my screen so that you can see the MITRE framework and how it works. So you can visit the attack.mitre.org. Right, you can go to their matrices, and I like their enterprise matrix. As you can see here, it shows the high-level steps that an adversary goes through, and what you can do as a certified ethical hacker is going through these steps, knowing the typical things that are performed by an adversary, and then know how to defend yourself. So as an example, under reconnaissance, if I go to active scanning, right, in fact, let me expand it to make it easy. Under active scanning, I can expand it, and it shows you the typical things that are done by an adversary as they try to gather information about the target. So they may try to scan your IPs, perform a word list scanning, or a vulnerability scanning. So this is a framework that shows you what an adversary does. If you actually click on each of them, and I'll do that for you, right? It will actually give you a brief description of what active scanning of IPs is, right? And shows you the mitigation steps you can take to protect yourself and how you can detect if someone is scanning your network. So this is a very powerful framework that you can use, right? Or if it's, gaining initial access, it may be through phishing. If you expand on phishing, it tells you the typical things that are performed, right? Phishing attachments on an email or a link. If you select each of these, go to it, they give you a brief synopsis or description, right? The different examples out there of phishing techniques. And you can see with phishing is a very popular type of attack. So there's many techniques out there. And then of course it closes off by showing you some mitigation steps you can put in place and how you can detect phishing exercise, right? So we call this the MITRE attack framework. The link will be on the chat, and I can even answer any further questions at the end if you do have any. So we call that the attack framework from MITRE. All right, so on our slide, this was the MITRE attack framework. And of course, once you sign up for class, we'll cover all these in detail, go through case studies, and actually implement all these in our lab environment. So if you're already excited, I would encourage you to sign up for this CEH class. We have multiple of them that run that can fit into your particular schedule under your calendar. All right, and we have many other attack frameworks that I'm not going to exhaust at this point because I want to show you more exciting stuff. Now, one may have a question. So what are some of the hacking classes or phases? So let's go through that together. So first of all, let's define hacking. So hacking is essentially unauthorized access. If someone gains access to exploit your systems, we call that hacking. Right? Ethical hacking, on the other hand, is when it's being performed by someone who is authorized. So let's talk about these classes or types of hackers. So we have what we call black hat hackers. These are the ones that you actually see on a movie or on a slide or on a snapshot wearing a hoodie. In other words, these are bad actors. We call them black hat hackers. The opposite of that would be white hat hackers. White hat hackers are essentially authorized hackers. So that is where you and I fit in. as certified ethical hackers. These are authorized hackers who are hacking for defense or security purposes. And then, of course, you have gray hat hackers. Gray hat hackers are hackers who hack sometimes authorized or unauthorized. So they can be like mercenaries. They can be good or bad actors. Right? And of course, as certified ethical hackers, we are required to work as white hat hackers, right? Only hacking when authorized. Other hacker classes include suicide hackers. These are hackers who don't care about getting caught. Because remember, if you get caught hacking, there are legal ramifications, right? Sometimes it could be potentially jail time. So suicide hackers are hackers who don't care if they get caught. In fact, sometimes getting caught is a badge of honor, right? But they're hacking for a cause, right? Maybe they believe in some cause and they are hacking, right? In contrast, we also have hacktivists. Hacktivists also hack for a cause, but they do not want to get caught. Right? So groups such as Anonymous would be a popular group that hacks for a cause, but they don't want to get caught. They stay anonymous. Now, as you sign up for this class, we'll also talk about the many other different hacker classes, such as cyber terrorists or script kiddies. And these are people who are just playing around, experimenting, but they typically do not mean any harm. Right? Industrial spies, criminal syndicates, insider attacks, and so forth. All those are hacker classes we cover in detail. So having said that, it's important to distinguish hacking from ethical hacking. And we said ethical hacking is essentially authorized hacking. So organization A may hire Gilbert to perform a hack so that we show them their weaknesses for remediation so that they don't get exploited. So that's ethical hacking. It helps to identify security weaknesses and remediate them. And if you are working as an ethical hacker, it's important that you stay within the terms of reference of your engagement. In other words, the scope that you're given is exactly what you just hack. If you go outside of your scope, that may be seen as black hat hacking and may have legal ramifications. Now, as you might be able to tell, ethical hacking requires a lot of technical skills, which of course we cover in this class. But we also teach about non-technical skills. So knowing, for example, relevant legal frameworks, how to construct a report after you do a hacking engagement, how to interpret and comply with policies, good communication skills, whether oral or written, and so forth. So we cover those broad skills so that you are a holistic security practitioner. All right. And I know there may be questions that you have already. Feel free to put them on the chat. I'll be answering those questions at the end. But if you think you may forget the question, go ahead and put it on the chat already so that we have those questions ready. So thank you in advance for being interactive. Now let's talk about some controls that can help with security. All the controls that we'll share on this sub-module will be summarized by what we covered initially, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And that, by the way, is our definition of cybersecurity. It's the ability to provide confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right? So you may use tools that can predict weaknesses, right, such as threat intelligence tools, or that can protect, such as your antivirus, firewalls, encryption, or tools that may detect if there's any infiltration, such as data leak prevention system, right? Or that may respond, such as your incident response process. All in all, as you put controls, you want to make sure that you do what we call defense in depth. Defense in depth is putting security at all possible layers. So at the data, you're encrypting it. At the application, maybe you're putting in authentication. At the host, maybe you're putting in authorization. On your internal network, maybe you're putting in VLANs. At your perimeter, maybe you're putting firewalls. At the physical level, maybe you have locks, cameras, security guards, and so forth. So we call that defense in depth, putting security at all possible layers. Those are controls that can reduce your exposure to hackers. What we also cover in this course is the importance of covering risk management. So risk is essentially the likelihood of a threat exploiting a vulnerability. So we always want to reduce that likelihood and also the potential impact. So we cover quite a bit on risk management. We also cover threat intelligence. Threat intelligence covers how you can collect, analyze, and know what's happening out there in the threat landscape to protect your infrastructure. So we cover that in detail. We also cover threat modeling, which is going through a hypothesis or a scenario or a simulation of a threat, what a potential threat may be, what it's likely going to affect, and then you take those lessons learned and reinforce your actual infrastructure. So we cover that in detail. We also cover the importance of incident management and being able to, as quickly and as early as possible, detect incidences and respond to them. Right. So as you can see, this is quite broad and very comprehensive. By the time we are done, after 5 days, you have quite a wide breadth of the different security practices, both for offensive and defensive purposes. Now we've seen the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning in cybersecurity. We also covered that in detail. And for your benefit, we also cover the different laws, frameworks, and standards that apply to information security. For example, the PCI, which is related to payment card processors. Right? So for any credit card merchants, right? We cover ISO, we cover HIPAA, we cover NIST, Sarbanes-Oxley, and so on and so forth. Right? GDPR for those that may be in Europe or holding EU data, and the different laws, regulations from different jurisdictions. So you can see it's quite comprehensive. Right? And this will be just one of the 20 modules that we'll be covering. So when we come back, I want to talk about social engineering and some of the concepts that we cover during social engineering. All right. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it on the chat. But what I want to do is give you guys a break. So let us take a short break for 5 minutes, and then I'll cover the remaining topics after our break. So quickly take a 5-minute break. I'll see you shortly. Thank you.
Sure, we are now going to take a 5-minute break, but before we do that, we are going to launch a quick poll that we want to invite you to participate in. Doing so helps us know how we can better serve you by telling us who might be interested in more information or in taking some additional training. In addition, we have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you managed to find some breathing time during break. So let's continue with our topic, right? I want to talk about footprinting and reconnaissance. This will be one of the first logical steps one would take as they perform ethical hacking. All right, so let's dive into that. In this module, we'll cover the different steps one would take as they perform reconnaissance and some of the tools we use. And of course, if you were to attend our class, we'll then go through the practical labs of the different tools, and we actually perform footprinting and reconnaissance on an authorized target. But first thing is first, let's distinguish active and passive, which I kind of highlighted previously. So active footprinting is when you are interacting directly with the target, right? So for example, I may be scanning your infrastructure, I may be sending attacks, or physically I may come to your building pretending to be a repair technician, whereas I want to do footprinting and gather information that may help me as I prepare the attack. Passive footprinting, on the other hand, is non-interactive. So there's no direct interaction with the target, right? And we'll demonstrate all these on how you can do both. Now, whether you're doing passive or active footprinting, you're gathering information, right? Such as IPs that are live, operating systems that they use, their location, number of employees, technologies that they're using. All those are forms of reconnaissance and footprinting. Now, I'm going to show you one of the tools that we go through during our lab that can help you perform footprinting and reconnaissance. So I'm going to share my browser here, and you can also see the link, right, which is osintframework.com. Now, this is one of my favorite tools that I use when I perform footprinting, because it's a mind map tool that shows me where I can go to help me find information. So for example, if I'm looking for information pertaining to domain names, right, and I'm looking for specifically particular domains, I can go to these whois records. And if I click on any of them, it will take me to the actual site, right? In this case, I may want to put in a domain name or a particular email, right? And it will give me information about that particular domain, right? Or if I want to evaluate the reputation of certain websites, I can go to these free websites, enter in the domain, and see if it's a trusted domain, right? Or whether it has to do with the type of squatting, right? Or social networks, right? Or I may be interested in researching about someone, so I can go to these people search engines, right? And there are many websites out there, like PQ, that's a very popular one. I enter Gilbert's name and it pulls information about Gilbert on that site, right? Or I can go to different registries, right? So you can see this is a fantastic tool that you can use. If I'm looking for business records, maybe on a client that I'm doing a penetration testing on, there are many websites that collects and collates different company profiles. Glassdoor is a very popular one, right? If I want to go to search engines, right? If I want to use geolocation tools, so as you can see here, there's numerous things that you can get from this mind map, right? If I want to research about digital currency, or if I want to go on the dark web, right, and do a Tor search, these are the different sites I can go to. If I want to perform threat intelligence or OPSEC, so forth. So I would say this is one of the tools you may want to put under your belt as a certified ethical hacker. And in our class, we actually do practical exercises and actually do research and come up with information pertaining to an authorized target. So we call that the open source intelligence framework, right? OSINT. Open source intelligence means that this is intelligence information you're gathering from the open source. In other words, it's publicly available. It's just put together, and you also help put it together to make sense of it. So this is just one of the hundreds of tools that we work through footprinting and reconnaissance. And as always, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to put it on the chat or put it after we're done with our class, and I'll be happy to answer them. So this is footprinting and reconnaissance. Now, there are many ways of footprinting and doing reconnaissance that we covered through the class, right? Whether through search engines, right? And this is not just a normal search engine search. As a hacker, you need to know that there are advanced parameters that you can apply on your Google search, which will give you more specificity on the information that you collect or gather. Right? So we'll talk about these different search operators and what they return to you if you put them as you perform a search. Right? We'll talk about the Google hacking database, right? Popularly known as the Google, the exploit-DB. Right? So this is a collection of hacking tools gathered by Google. But for your benefit, let me show you the link and even perhaps share my screen. So one of the go through is the exploit-DB, popularly known as the Google hacking database. It has a lot of exploits that you can download and use for hacking. Right, so you just essentially put in what you want to do, right? Maybe I want to look for an exploit for cracking passwords. If I enter that, right, and of course you need to know the operating system that you're targeting. So maybe I'm targeting a Windows and I want to do a password denial service attack. I just download that, and in this case it's a PY, so that's a Python script, and I can run that. Right, so you don't have to invent hacking tools as a certified hacking expert. You just need to know where to get those tools to be able to launch an attack. Right, and we go through that in detail in our class. So that's the Google hacking database. Right, and it has a lot of exploits that you can download. We also talk about how to footprint web services, right? So whether it's domains, subdomains, or searching for people or employees, and we'll actually run tools on our Kali Linux or Parrot Linux to harvest information about people on LinkedIn, including their email addresses, right? So we have a tool, one of my favorite tools called the Harvester. I can essentially go and harvest information about people on LinkedIn. Right. We also go through how to footprint on a job site. Most people would not know how dangerous it is to have information on a job site, right? Because you're essentially saying, oh, we're looking for an engineer who can manage AWS, or we can manage Exchange, and so forth. By so doing, you are thereby disclosing the technologies that you use. So as ethical hackers, we exploit that to gather information about the potential technologies that are in use with that particular client. Right, so that's footprinting. We can also footprint on the dark web. So we actually walk you through how to access the dark web and the specific browsers to use as you browse the dark web. So of course, your normal Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or Edge will not get you to the dark web. Right? So we'll talk about the different browsers, such as the Tor browsers such as DuckDuckGo. That's a very popular browser to be able to browse the dark web. Right, so we go through all these for footprinting and reconnaissance. As you can see, it's a lot of activities that we perform, right? Going through social media, right? And we'll actually do live exercises where we gather information about a particular name and we present it. And you also work with those tools as well, right? So all that is on footprinting and reconnaissance. As you can see, there's a ton of things that you'd do as you footprint and do reconnaissance. One of the tools that we work with as you do footprinting and reconnaissance is archive.org, right? Also known as the Wayback Machine. Does this sound familiar? Put a yes on the chat if it does, or a no. All right, for those that may not be familiar with it, let me also show this on my browser. Right, so we have what we call the Wayback Machine, right? Archive.org. You can essentially footprint information that was on a particular site at a particular point in time. Right, so for example, if I go and say I want to find out what was on the website, say CNN, .com, and I can then pick a year, a date, and a time for that. Right. So I enter a URL here. Let's go to CNN.com. And I say, I want to see what was on CNN in 2006, right? On this particular month, day, and time. I say March 14 at this particular time. Right? It will actually show me. So the Wayback Machine takes snapshots of the internet, and it can show you what was on that particular site at that particular point in time. All right, so we can see here 2006, that was during the Iraq War. So we see things to do with Iraq, Al-Qaeda, and so forth. So you can essentially go to any website, visit it at a point in time, and you'll be able to perform reconnaissance. Pretty cool, isn't it? So these are some of the benefits of signing up for the CEH class. Right? We walk you through all these tools, all these techniques, and I haven't even gone through the lab exercise, right? Which of course we'll cover in class, but we'll actually have labs, which has hundreds of tools. So at the end of this session, you'll be prepared to work as a certified ethical hacker for defense purposes. All right. But remember, this is just still one chapter, which is footprinting and reconnaissance. Right? We also teach you how to gather information pertaining to email, how to analyze email headers so that you can see the legitimate source of an email. Right? You can also look up domains, etc., etc. So that's footprinting and reconnaissance. All right, we can also gather information pertaining to DNS information, do lookups, and most importantly, dig information pertaining to IP and IP addresses. All right, so it's important that if you are an ethical hacker, you want to find out the IP range for the target, whether it's public IPs or private IPs. Right? We call that locating the network range. So we work through some tools that you can use to analyze and gather information. Right. Right. We also talk about social engineering. So let's define social engineering. Social engineering is essentially hacking the human. So essentially befriending someone so that you can exploit information from them. We call that social engineering. Gathering information by eliciting or soliciting information from someone. And it can be done in multiple ways, right? You can do things such as eavesdropping. So if someone is talking on the phone, you listen in without them seeing you. That's social engineering. Or you can do shoulder surfing. When someone is typing on their keyboard and you're looking over as they type their password and you're like, uh-huh. Or dumpster diving, which is going through trash. Or impersonating, so calling, pretending to be someone. All those are forms of social engineering. So essentially hacking the human so that you get information you would otherwise not get. And we walk through all the different tools for performing all these forms of attacks. Right, so we call that social engineering. On each of these modules, right, we close it off by talking about countermeasures. Countermeasures are essential techniques in place that can help you remediate or counter these attacks. So let's close off by talking about how can you counter any footprinting activities. So for example, you may restrict your employees on what they can share on social media. Also be careful as an organization what you put on your press releases or job posts, right? And so on and so forth. So actually implement these countermeasures in your lab, rerun the activities, and check if it has improved our security posture. Right. So we call those countermeasures. All right. So this and more is what we cover in certified ethical hacking. So what I want us to do is to perhaps go ahead and discuss some questions that you may have. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them on the chat box and I'll be happy to address them as we go into our Q&A. All right. But let me also thank you for participating. I hope this was informative and valuable. Now let's go through our questions.
Thank you, Gilbert. That was so informative. I know everyone is looking forward to the Q&A session, so go ahead and start putting your questions into the questions panel. And while you do that, and now I'd like to give the presentation rights to Jobby, our VP for Vendor Operations, to introduce our promotions and webinar-related courses.
Welcome once again to all of you. We thank you for joining this masterclass on EC Council's CEH version 12. And I'm sure you've had a great briefing from our speaker today. And we are glad that you were able to join us. We look forward to having having you on more such events from Netcom. Moving on, there are a few things which I want to share with all of you about Netcom Learning and what we bring to your, and wanted to bring few things to your attention which could be of benefit to you. So about Netcom, we are about 25 years old as an organization in the training space based in North America. and we've been doing business in terms of training delivery and other services across the world. We are a New York-based organization. Just to give you a glimpse of what we do and what we have achieved all this while in these years is that we've serviced more than 80% of Fortune 1000 organizations. 100 plus US military bases have been trained in under various technologies, right from security to cloud to other vendor specific programs from Microsoft, Cisco, AWS, and so on. Uh, 36,000 plus customers and 1 million plus professionals have been trained by Netcom Learning. So, I'm sure this gives you an idea of our capability in terms of what we could do, how we could add value to your career and in your journey to acquire more skills and knowledge. We are here, and we've been winning awards every year, and one of those significant award is from Microsoft, which we won again this year, and we are also awarded as top 20 training organizations by Training Industry. Now, since you happen to be somebody who's interested or who is in the domain of security or cybersecurity, what we have done is we have created a security skilling program because, as you all know, there could be hundreds of courses which are available from various vendors. But what we have done is we have chosen the best and most in-demand courses, and we have created a security skilling program for you all. This contains courses from Microsoft, AWS, CompTIA, EC Council, and IEC2. And just in case you happen to be looking for any of these courses, I'm sure we have it in our repository. Please go ahead, please visit our website and see. You'll be able to find what you're looking for. This security skilling program, once you visit our page, you'll get to know that it is very easy, and we have tried to make it easier for you to plan your learning journey so that that which level you are at right now and how you should proceed. So a learning plan and a learning path is defined in this, and this actually gives you the best in the world in terms of security as far as the security training is concerned. So broadly, this is what our security skilling program is all about. Please do visit us and have a look at it. Now, security awareness, we all know you are in the security domain, and you know that security, the weakest point is the end user, and end user training in terms of security awareness is an essential part. In fact, many of this is mandated by the compliances you fall under. It could be ISO, it could be any other compliance system which you're part of. Cybersecurity awareness happens to be an important requirement as far as compliance is concerned. So we have a beautiful product. We have partnered with EC Council Aware, which offers a cybersecurity awareness training and phishing simulation solution. So if you say that you and your organization would want to have access to this particular solution, please do visit our website. We have a detailed dedicated page for that. You could request for a demo, and once you have a look at the demo, if you're interested, we could take those conversations forward. Moving on, we also have a training product which we call it as Learning Passport. Under Passport, we have Savings Passport and Voucher Passport. So these are differentiated in terms of in terms of value, and voucher is in terms of number of days of training. So how does it help you? This is a prepaid product in which you and your organization can decide on your training budget, and you can decide which are the courses you're looking for. And we offer 4,000 plus courses as part of this passport. This is as I said, this is a prepaid product, but when you pay, we also add value to that upfront investment which you're making. Let us assume that you have a budget of $75,000 as training. So once you take that product, we increase the value by 60% so that you are able to get additional 60% value. And this 175,000 is increased by additional 60%, and you will be able to consume that on as per the list price of the courses. You can select and choose and assign trainings which you want to give to your team members or within your organization. In terms of voucher passport, this works in a similar fashion, but the difference is that in terms of a course, here we look at the number of days of training. Again, this effectively costs you about less than $500 a day in on a per day basis when you do this. And for the value, let's say you purchase you pay $44,000 upfront. You get 100 days of training. Now, let's say that you have 10 members and you have chosen 10 members in your organization, and you've chosen 5 of them to go through a course which is 5 days. That is 25 days, and then you are left with 75 more days. And similarly, you can assign other courses to your other team members as well. So this is a product which is great value for money, because in comparison to the regular prices, this gives you so much more for the value which you're going to be paying to us. We have some more resources on our website. For example, all the details about more than 4,000 courses and certifications. We have virtual events, free virtual events and master classes like this, the one which you're attending, and many more events we do. We run a lot of events on a regular basis. So please do visit our event section and you would be able to get information about it. We do have blogs written by the best in the industry, from people who are part of the industry, people who are in the education or the training space, the instructors, the best people. They've written blogs on various topics. We would encourage you to have a look at that as well. That will help you to understand the nitty-gritties of various things. And the best part about our blogs is that we do cover the most recent topics which are part of it. Savings programs and promotions. We do run a lot of promotions all through the year. So if you go to that, our savings program section, which we anyway have seen a glimpse in Learning's Passport and Netcom Plus, there are other promotions which we run. So we would encourage you to visit our website there as well. Lastly, before I leave, we request you to visit us and follow us, like and follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter as well. We do provide a lot of updates and promotions on these on these platforms. So if you follow follow us there, you are going to get the latest information and updates from Netcom Learning. Once again, I thank you all that you've taken the time off your busy schedules and to attend our event. We look forward to seeing you on another event. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for guiding us through that information, Jobby. Now we are going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. If you haven't done it yet, it's not too late to pop your questions into the question panel. The first question we have today is, how are ethical hackers employed? In other words, is there a job market for them?
All right, I think that's a very good question. If you look in the media lately, you can see that there are people who are doing bad activities. Right, that also then translates to the high demand of people who can defend from these nefarious activities. So is there a job market for ethical hackers? Absolutely. In fact, there's a shortage in the market. So getting this certification goes a long way in giving you credibility and a license to practice as a certified ethical hacker. And some of the job roles out there could include maybe a security analyst, ethical hacker, penetration tester, and so forth. So there's high demand with different job role titles.
Our next question is from John, and he's asking, as I am new to cybersecurity, do I need any prerequisites to take this course?
That's a very good question. So officially for certified ethical hacking, there is no prerequisites. So anyone and everyone can attend the class and take the exam without needing any prerequisites. I would also add to that and just recommend that it helps to come with some form of IT background, some form of networking knowledge and experience to make the class and therefore the exam easier for you. But as at an official level, there are no prerequisites to this class.
Next question that is coming in is, what is the exam code and structure for taking the certification, and what is the passing marks for the exam?
All right, very good question. You guys have very good questions. So the exam code for CEH is 312-50. I'll repeat that. So that's 312-50. That's the exam code. And as far as the exam format is concerned, this is an exam that is 125 multiple choice questions. And yes, you heard that correctly. All the questions for CEH exam are multiple choice. And you have 4 hours to complete those 125 questions. Right. As far as the pass mark is concerned, you need to score 70% and above to pass the exam. So it's not a hard exam, and the pass score of 70% is not too high. So it's actually a very achievable certification.
Looks like we have time for one more question. They would like to know, how hard is the exam and which one is better, network defender or ethical hacker?
Okay, very good question. So the flagship certifications from EC Council would be CEH, the Certified Ethical Hacking, and CND, the Certified Network Defender. So comparing them would be unfair because it's not apples with apples. CEH focuses on attacking, hence we call you a certified ethical hacker. CND is focused on defending the network. So you're not attacking, you're just defending, right? So it depends on where you want to focus on in your security career, on the defensive or offensive side. If we are comparing them, and I've taken all these exams, CEH would be a little bit more tougher compared to CND. So I would say CND would be more inferior and CEH would be more superior certification. I would recommend you consider doing both of them, but CEH would be the more premier certification. Thank you for having me today, and thank you to all the participants. You guys had great questions. I wish you all a good day further. Thank you.
Once again, I want to remind you that as you leave this session today, you will be presented with a short survey. We would like to request for you to help us by taking a quick moment to participate in that survey. Your feedback really helps us understand your learning experience as we are constantly looking at how we can improve our future sessions. The survey answers are measured on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 representing outstanding and 1 representing poor. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.